Our next guest, outspoken critic of some of her own agency's initiatives, to join us to talk about crypto regulation, debates over ESG, and so much more. SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce. She is one of 2 Republicans among the 5 SEC commissioners. Good morning to you. Love to get your sense of where you think the state of some of these regulations around crypto really stand right now. There's been so much speculation, even in the past several weeks, about where a Bitcoin ETF might land. There was a moment, as you I'm sure recall, where a report came out erroneously, apparently, that one would be approved. That would be the BlackRock one. But a view that, given some of the things that have happened in court recently with the SEC losing, that maybe the SEC is now more open to approving one of these types of funds. Is it?
Well, good morning, Andrew. And I can't say whether or not the commission is ready to approve a Bitcoin exchange-traded product. I've been thinking we should approve one for the last 5 years. So the logic for why we haven't has always mystified me. The court case obviously is an important factor in the landscape, but I can't guess as to my colleagues' approach to this topic.
But the reason I ask is there's a sort of a speculative fever taking place throughout Wall Street and other parts of the crypto world that believe that, given those court results or those losses, if you will, or specifically that one loss, that it would change the thinking of the other commissioners at the SEC. You spend time with them. You talk to them. Do you see any shift in terms of that type of thinking, just even generally speaking?
I really can't speak to what we're going to do on the Bitcoin exchange-traded products. I can say that generally the agency has not been very good when it comes to anything related to Bitcoin or other crypto assets. And look, I hope that every day I hope that they'll wake up and they'll think, you know what, we need to take a more productive approach. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm, of course, hoping that it will.
But I guess the question is, should the public take anything away from the fact that a BlackRock or a Fidelity or somebody of that size, scale, perhaps reputation, is applying for these things, that somehow is validating this space in a way that perhaps maybe some of the smaller firms that had applied for such types of funds earlier did not?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the fact that there are a lot of firms that think the public is interested in these kinds of products. Again, you know, people have to be careful about trying to read the tea leaves of what agencies are doing, and I'm not going to contribute to that. I'm just going to say that, you know, obviously we're seeing more and more interest from firms in these products, and I hear a lot of interest from investors in these kinds of products as well.
What is the lesson? You know, we've all been watching this Sam Bankman-Fried trial that's taking place downtown around crypto, and we've watched now Coinbase has started to open up franchises and things in other countries and the like. Have you felt a shift in terms of the way Washington and your colleagues are thinking about crypto at all?
I mean, look, the events of last year were not positive for crypto's image, certainly. It's a good moment for all of us to sit down and think about how did we get to this place. And I think there's a lot of work the industry needs to do, and thinking about applying, you know, traditional lessons from traditional finance that have been learned the hard way over the years, applying those in the crypto space. But there's also an opportunity for regulators to sort of think, what could we have done differently? And I think one thing we could have done differently is to craft a framework that provided people clear guidelines and made the United States the kind of place where crypto companies wanted to be registered and based. And that would have been very helpful for then distinguishing good actors from bad actors. We still have the opportunity to do that. I think there is a lot of interest on the congressional side to try to do something around crypto. You know, again, my agency has mostly focused on bringing enforcement actions, which is just not a really efficient way of bringing regulatory clarity to the space.
Do you have any sense that real legislation is going to be made? I mean, we've had a number of lawmakers come on the program, talk about legislation, this and that, but here we have a situation the House doesn't even have a speaker. And you think to yourself, and, you know, we've talked for a decade about regulating, you know, social media and all sorts of other things that that no one, a lot of people talk about, and then nothing ever really gets done. Do you have any reason to think that something will?
Well, I mean, I cautioned about reading regulatory tea leaves, and I'm careful about trying to read political tea leaves. But I would say that there is widening interest in trying to do something. And whether it's a broader bill or whether it's taking things piece by piece, I don't know. But I think there's clearly perceived to be a need to do something in this space. And I think that's really encouraging.
Has your view shifted at all? We have, by the way, on the screen, and I don't know if you can see it, we have Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Ripple, and Dogecoin on the screen. I think there's been some shift in thought around what cryptocurrency really is, which ones matter, things like that. Have you sort of changed or shifted your views around that? Do you say to yourself, Bitcoin is one thing and that's in its own special camp, and maybe Ether's in another, and maybe these others are something else entirely?
Well, I think different crypto assets have been developed and different blockchains have been developed for different purposes, and that's something that people are doing a lot of experimentation with. So it's been interesting to me as a regulator, not a technologist, just to watch that experimentation, to watch different uses for the different blockchains emerge. And, look, the market is going to ultimately decide whether any or all of these stay around, and, we'll see how that develops. It'll be fun to watch, but there are different uses for the different blockchains.
But do you think some of them are just pure speculation? And if they are, do you think that they should be regulated? Meaning, part of the issue has been that I think there's been some real great skepticism inside the SEC and elsewhere that some of these things may be real, but others may not be at all. And if they are not at all, maybe there's no reason to be even trying to regulate them, because by regulating them, to some degree, you're endorsing what it is.
Well, look, I think people speculate about lots of different things, and especially in low interest rate environments, people speculate about lots of things. It's not my job as a regulator to tell people what they can and can't purchase and what they can and can't speculate about, right? Speculation is what makes our markets work. I encourage everyone to be skeptical about everything they're buying. And so, yeah, you should be asking, if you are interested in crypto and you're thinking of buying a crypto asset, you should be asking a lot of questions. You should be trying to figure out what the purpose of a particular crypto asset is, and that's fine. But the idea that by affording people a regulatory framework, we're providing a regulatory seal of approval is the wrong way to think about things. We at the SEC have a job to be disclosure regulators, and so if we're given the job to write disclosure regulations for crypto assets, that is not a seal of approval.